All right, so when you're running with a camera and trying to get just that little extra look, there is no doubt that framing, lighting, all that stuff is important, but you can't ever discount the importance of movement in a shot. And what I want to talk today is I want to talk about sliders, and specifically a very, very cool one that I've just come across that really, I think, adds what you want in a slider. It needs to be convenient, fast, and you need to not think about it. And what I want to do is I want to talk about the one that I'm on right now, which is the Accsoon TOPRIG S60 slider, and look and see if this could be something that actually makes sense for you if you're a shooter to add to your kit and maybe give you that one little piece and accent that you're missing in your shooting. Okay, so here is the TOPRIG S60, and this is essentially what you get. And I think the first thing you're gonna notice about this thing is the size. This thing is really, really compact. You can easily throw this in a bag. I really like it. It comes with a carrying case that's super small and compact, and it just doesn't take up a huge amount of space, which is one of the main things you're gonna be looking for in a slider. They do make actually a S40 version of this. It's even shorter if you need something shorter. But I'm one of those people, I found this length to work really good. Now there's about 40 some centimeters of workable space here, and that translates to, I think, 16.7 inches of travel space if you're here in the US. And I find that 1.5 feet to be pretty much perfect for when I'm doing interviews and product shots. I love having that rate of distance of travel, but it doesn't give me this huge 3-foot slider that's impractical when I'm ever gonna set up because it doesn't make any sense on a set. Now, one of the reasons why size is so important is because when you're talking about a slider as someone that's used lots of sliders in his life, is you really want something that you can set up easily on one tripod. And I found that this S60 is a perfect one tripod length. I can easily set this up on one tripod. Now I do want to make one more note about this. While I said you can easily slip this on a single tripod, I do think you need to basically get yourself a pair of support arms. These do not come with the kit. You can find these on a number of places online. I'll put a link down below. But what's great about these is you can just hook these to the tripod. You can take these 1/4 inches and put them here on the 1/4 inch, and that's gonna give you these 3 points of contact. That's gonna give you a much, much more guaranteed stable shot when you're doing the sliders. The other thing about a slider like this that I would think is very, very important besides the size is going to be ease of use. And one thing I really like about this as a motorized slider is it's got physical buttons built here in the body itself. This is really, really important. You want to be able to basically get on your slider and have these controls and know you can control it super, super fast. Now, that being said, if you want to use an app, well, guess what? You can control this through an app. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this simplicity of having physical buttons on it, the size of it makes it a really, really nice powerhouse little slider that you're gonna take on set and not stay stuck in your car or in your house because it's too cumbersome to move. Now, there are some really nice features about this TOPRIG S60 that are very, very worth pointing out. The first one is obviously this is a motorized slider. Now that being said, it's not so stiff that you can't, you see I can move this even when I have the motor on. So if you need to, you can easily adjust and get your point. But I do think that they really were smart in how they designed this in making it really flexible. The first thing is it is powered by Sony NPF batteries, or if you really don't want to have to sweat it, they do have a DC in right here that you can plug in and power it all day. I have found that if I take like one of these small rig Sony MP batteries, I can put this in and I've been able to power this through a full day of interviews without even sweating it. The other cool thing about this outlet right here is it actually has a 5-volt USB-C out. So if you need to basically power peripherals off of this, you can do that through the USB-C out. Now, in addition to easy power options, this thing has one other physical component that I consider, in my opinion, this is just a critical thing. I would never honestly want a slider that doesn't have that. And this is going to be, it actually has a physical mechanical parallax bar built into it. And the reason why this is so important is because when you're doing slider work, you don't want the camera just to go completely straight because you're gonna keep losing your subject. We really want to get dynamic shots. You want to have parallax shots where the subject stays centered and the camera will move with it. And what I really want in those situations, I've used rhinos and other things like that, and I just can get kind of frustrated when I have to basically go and dial in and do all this stuff. I want a mechanical bar like this that lets me dial it in physically, and then I know it's set all day. I don't have to worry about it. And what's great is you have these two little locks, one on each side, and you can basically, if you look at this bar here, you can see you can shift it up or down, and that will let your head stay and move with the thing. And what's nice is if you look here on this side, there's actually like a little dial here that you can dial that in. Now, I've found that, getting this in, you just have to dial it and play it in, but once it's in, you can just lock it just like this. It's got a lock on each side. And then if you look on the bottom here, this is super important for me too, is the fact that it's got really good mounting points here on the bottom and the center side, and it has them 1/4 inches on the ends if you want to put support arms, and on the sides as well, which allows you to add peripherals. So if you want to have a monitor, it is really easy to take a magic arm or something, put it on there, hook up a monitor or anything else like that. The other physical thing I would like to point out besides the buttons is going to be the actual mounting point here for either your head or your camera. Now you notice this has a 3/8 screw, but it's a retractable screw. So you actually push down and that becomes a 1/4 inch screw. This is really nice if you have maybe a smaller head, or say you just want to put your camera straight on this, you don't have a head for some reason, you can do that. Or if you have a small little fluid head like this, you can put it on there, screw it on, and it'll basically pop on there with no problem. And now you have a head that's easy to go. So it's super easy and fast to get this stuff all set up. Now to power it, you just need, like I said, a Sony NP-F battery, and this is where this thing really starts to shine. You basically cut it on, and once you cut it on, you just hit the play button. What's gonna do, it's just gonna calibrate from left to right. And once it does that, you're honestly pretty much ready to roll. Now, one thing I really love here is, I'm gonna play it just so you can see, it has a speed button. So you see, you can go really slow, or you can physically ramp it up and get it fast. Or if you want, you can actually slow it down to an incredibly slow speed. But it's all organic, it's all tactile, it's all really, really good. I found the sound on this to be really decent. I mean, I think if you're doing like a full speed thing, you can hear the motors a little bit. I can't imagine you would really want to use a 16.7 inch slider at full speed in an interview type setting. And I found that if you do this in that situation, once you set this to what I would consider a more normal interview type speed, it really doesn't make any sound that's going to interfere. But I've done a lot of interviews now with this, and I haven't found any problem with the sound. Now, on the side, because it's pretty simple, there are a couple of important buttons. Now, obviously, you have a play button, which can start and stop. And you have above that, you have basically a single push, or you have a continuous loop. And it's pretty straightforward. You can have it go just once, where it will come to the end of the slide and it stops. Or if you switch it over to a continuous loop, what you're gonna see is it'll now come and just do a continuous loop. And this is probably what most of us are gonna use. And of course, speed makes a big difference in this ramp. If you have it more like what I would consider, I'm gonna speed this up just again. If you have more what I would consider a interview type speed, which is something like this, kind of a nice smooth motion, you'll see it'll kind of ramp down and then come back up. Now, it's not super smooth, so just be aware if you are getting it in the ramp, you're probably going to cut to the second camera, but it's there and has that option there. You can get away with it if you need to, but I really see this as a second camera type tool. It's a fantastic second camera type tool. So if you ever find yourself getting to the end of that ramp, maybe that's the time you want to cut away or not. It just depends on how you feel about the organic motion of it. Now, and as I said, because this thing has length, you can actually set A and B points. Well, now what happens is I can sit there, and now what you're gonna see, by setting those A and B points, you'll see it basically just operates here between this A and B point. Now, from a non-video standpoint, this actually gives you really good options for time-lapse photography too. You can see right now, this is moving, and this is very, very slow. So if you need to do a time-lapse thing, you can actually just set this like right here and do a time-lapse, but you can also, it has an input here for a camera, so you can actually trigger it and move it in step. Now, in addition to the physical buttons, they do have a physical app, which is really nice too. You just open that up, and as you can see, you just connect here. Now, as you can see, this app will let you control and start and stop and set these continuous loops. So if you want to set continuous loop, I will set that on, and now it's going to continuous loop for me. If I want to do just a single one, I can turn that off, and I can set the A and B point. One thing that I would point out about this app is because the speed in here is controlled by this dial, you can't control the speed from here. So you are going to want to dial that in manually before you walk away from it. And as you notice, it does have a video and a time lapse. So if you want to come over here to the time lapse function, I will pause that. And now you'll see now that I can now set up a time lapse. I can really set it up there and start dialing this in exactly the way that I want. Okay, whenever I do a review, I always like to point out any rooms for improvement, just so you're fully aware of what the strengths or weaknesses of a product are, and if it makes sense to include in your kit. Now, while this is an incredibly well-valued slider, the number one room of improvement I would say is actually going to be on the ability to ramp. If you see here, I come here to the end, it'll kind of stop in this continuous loop, and it'll come back. Now, I have it on a slower speed, so that's kind of a nicer ramp there. But the one thing you can't control in this, which I really wish you could, is the ability to kind of dial in or modify that ramp here at the end. I have found that for interviews, I can get away with it as long as I have a slower speed. You'll see it kind of comes to ramp here and come down. But I found that sometimes that ramp, if you're a little bit faster stuff, can be a little abrupt. Now, realistically, as I said, for interviews and stuff, as long as I have it on a slow speed, I find that end ramp to be very, very nice. I just wish you could dial it in, and you can't. You get what you get, and that's what you have. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes if you're going faster for some product stuff, maybe you can get a bumps here and there. Just something to be aware of. The other thing that I would point out is, while I love having this physical parallax bar, I mean, this is just an absolutely fantastic thing. I want that on every slider I have found that while this dial over here is really easy to work with, I just found the placement of this dial in here, it's just a little tight and hard to get to. So if you have like big fingers, you may have a hard time getting in there, especially if the head is closer to the side. Just kind of, I wish it was up a little bit higher, so you know, just something to be aware of. And really the last room for improvement that I would point out is, while this thing is a fantastic size, works great on a slider, you really do need to have these support arms to truly unlock the full 16.7 inches of this slider. And this isn't really a room for improvement on the slider itself. It's just something I kind of wish Accsoon did, which was, it would be really nice if they had a kit that included these arms as an option that you could buy as an add-on to it, just because to really use this right, you're going to need arms like this. And it just would have been nice to have something like that in the system itself. All right, guys, so there you go. That is the Accsoon TOPRIG S60 slider. It's a really, really powerful, easy to use, don't think about it slider that, in my opinion, I think could add a ton of value to your kit if you're looking at getting one. Anyway, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. Leave me notes and comments down below. And yeah, go out there, keep on shooting. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon.